Then see, the first chapter is, that's it, one is about basic concepts of GST. So basic concepts of GST not that much important for practical purpose, that is from exam point of view, but for MCQs it may be useful. Okay, so what is the effective date of implementation of GST? 1/7/2017. So nothing great in that. How GST is formed? So already we know that all indirect taxes levied by central government in the past except customs duty, but including CVD and SAD, got subsumed into GST. CVD and SAD is to counterbalance excise duty on like article if imported into India. SAD is to counterbalance sales tax on like article if imported into India. And in case of CVD and SAD, it is subsumed into GST. So because excise duty and sales tax got subsumed into GST. So right now only customs duty is outside the ambit of GST. Okay. Then, however, additional customs duty, this part already I have explained to you. All indirect taxes levied in the past by the central government, so should be subsumed into GST. That's what you need to remember. And except customs duty, but there is additional customs duties called CVD and SAD that got subsumed into GST. What about indirect taxes levied by state government? Even almost all indirect taxes levied by state government also got subsumed into GST. Okay, and then what about entertainment tax levied by local authorities? See, local authorities also can levy some taxes, but that not got subsumed into GST. Okay. So therefore, right now we have only entertainment tax. So therefore, entertainment tax can be levied by state government as well as local authority. State government levying entertainment tax is subsumed into GST, but local authorities levying entertainment tax not got subsumed into GST. So still there is. So when you go to any movie, you will be knowing that. So there is GST, and on the top of the GST, there is something called as entertainment tax also. Okay. Then, so whether we have dual GST model or single GST model, so we have dual GST model. What is the meaning of dual GST model? On the common tax base, both central government as well as state government shall levy tax. That is known as dual GST model. For example, when you go to a restaurant, 500 rupees is the price of the food. So on the top of it, 500 rupees, 2.5% CGST will be there, 2.5% SGST will be there. So India is following dual GST model here. So dual GST model, sir, what if it is an interstate supply? So that is between two states, then IGST will come into picture. But that IGST also fully central government will not take. So IGST 50% is shared with the state government. So which means that dual GST prevails in every place. Okay. So what is dual GST? Both CG as well as SG collects tax. India has adopted dual GST model through Constitution 101st Amendment Act 2016. So please be careful. So generally in exam, in MCQ, they may give 2017 year. So because we all think that GST is implemented with effect from 1/7/2017, so they will be of the impression that it will be applicable from 1/7, the act will be from 1/7/2017. So 2017 we will remember, but not. So the act is 2016 and 101st Amendment Act 2016, and we literally adopted this model of dual GST from Brazil and Canada. Okay. Then next, sir, as India follows dual GST model, which means that central government is also have power to make law, even state government is also have power to make law, which means that so we have to take the decision together by CG and SG. So therefore, they formed a council called as GST Council. So what will happen in this GST Council? So central government finance minister also will be there, that is union finance minister will be there, and state government finance ministers also will be there. So together central government and state government finance ministers will be taking the decisions, crucial decisions like what should be the rate of GST, whether exemption to be given or not, and what should be taken as the due date, and what should be the return process, payment process. All these key decisions will be taken by the GST Council. That is like in the law, wherever in CGST Act or IGST Act, the Act delegates a power to the central government. It's like central government is empowered to do so. Karke. So central government is empowered to do so, like that they will be giving. So that empowered to do so wherever it comes. So in that place, so GST Council will be giving recommendations to the central government. So therefore, the key decisions are taken by GST Council, and GST Council is a constitutional authority. So it is not a government body, it's a constitutional authority, which means that its powers and all derived from where? powers and all derived from where? Powers are derived from the constitution. It's a constitutional authority. Article 279A of the constitution, it's a constitution authority constituted by President of India, and it's constituted by President of India, but Union Finance Minister is its chairman. Okay, Union Finance Minister is its chairman, not Prime Minister or not President. President just constitutes it. And who are the members of the council? So in the council, first we have Union Finance Minister, so one person from central government. Another person from central government is Union Minister of State Affairs. So State Finance Minister, MP of State Affairs, in charge of revenue or its members. And apart from that, even State Finance Ministers, MP of State Affairs in charge of revenue or its members. So it includes here even, this State Finance Ministers. It includes even State Finance Ministers will also be included into this, okay. And this is the decision making body of GST Council. So total how many members will be there, sir? So total there will be 33 members. So what logic is this 33 members? Let's try to understand how it will be. So one Union Finance Minister, correct? One Union Finance Minister and one Minister of State, one Union Minister of State Affairs plus 31 SGST acts are there. Sir, how come 31 SGST acts? So there are 28 states. Right now, whatever is applicable for your exam, I am telling you. So there are 28 states. So take out Jammu and Kashmir. So including Jammu and Kashmir, 29 states. If you take out Jammu and Kashmir, 28 states. 28 states plus 3 union territories with state legislature. So what are those 3 union territories with state legislature? Puducherry, Ladakh, not Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, and we have Delhi. So these 3 will be taken as union territory with state legislature. So these 3 should be added to that list, okay. So which means right now we have how many states, boss? 28 states plus 3 UTs with state legislature. So what is the meaning of state legislature? State legislature means that they will be given like a state only. So in total, how many we have? 31 is GST acts. So then, sir, what are those 3 union territories with state legislature? What are the 3 union territories with state legislature? So already I told you Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir. These are the 3 union territories with state legislature. So this is an amendment applicable for your exam. So for your May 21 exam, so this state of Jammu and Kashmir got abrogated into 2 union territories. One is union territory of Jammu and Kashmir with state legislature, means like a state only it will function. The other one is union territory of Ladakh without state legislature, that will be under the control of the central government, okay. So therefore, how many state finance ministers we will be having? 31. So means literally there are 33 members. There are 33 members in the GST Council, okay. So now that we have completed. Now what are the types of GST that we have? We have total 5 GSTs here, 5 types of GSTs. Number one CGST, number 2 SGST, number 3 UTGST, IGST and GST compensations. These are the 5. So when CGST, SGST and UTGST is levied in case of intrastate supply, see, we have a division called as intrastate supply and interstate supply. First of all, what is this supply? Supply is the taxable event under GST. So whenever supply takes place, we need to pay GST. What is supply? We will discuss later, that is in section 7. So supply, whenever supply takes place, supply leads to taxable event, that is GST is applicable whenever there is a supply. This supply is divided into 2 bars, that is intrastate supply and interstate supply. What is intrastate supply? When the location of supplier and place of supply is in the same state, that is known as intrastate supply. There are 2 factors. What are the 2 factors? Location of supplier and the place of supply is in the same state, that is intrastate supply. When location of supplier and the place of supply is in 2 different states or 2 different union territories, or a state and a union territory, again I am repeating, 2 different states, 2 different union territories, a state and a union territory, then it is known as interstate supply. So whenever there is an interstate supply, IGST will come into picture. See this. Whenever there is an interstate supply, IGST is applicable. Whenever there is an intrastate supply, then in that case, CGST, SGST and UTGST is applicable. Okay, let's try to understand this little bit. That is, intrastate supply could be within the state or within the union territory. Within the state means dual GST. Central government will levy 50%, state government. So CGST plus SGST. If it is within the union territory, then also it is intra-state only. It's not intra-union territory. Then CGST will be 50% and UTGST will be 50%. So CGST and UTGST will come into picture. That's the logic. Then whenever there is an interstate supply, what is that I told you? Interstate supply. So location of supplier and place of supply is in two different states, two different union territories, or a state and a union territory. IGST will be applicable. In case of IGST, 100% will be collected by the central government and 50% is shared with the state government. Which state government? Consuming state. 50% shared with consuming state, boss. Consuming state. 50% shared with consuming state. Okay. So consuming state means destination state. That's the reason why GST is called as a destination based tax. For example, if the sale is between, like the location of supply is in Tamil Nadu and place of supply is in Karnataka, then we have to pay IGST to central government. Out of that IGST, so 50% they will be sharing with Karnataka, okay, not to Tamil Nadu, not to the originating state, but to the consuming state, okay. Because of this, there is a problem now. What is that problem? So originating states will not be having that much of revenue, because in the past, whenever interstate sale happens, CST was levied by the originating state and collected by the originating state, and they used to retain completely. Which one? CST. But now GST, 50% will go to central government and 50% will go to the consuming state. So then what is left with the originating state? So the revenue will come down to the originating state. To avoid that revenue loss to the originating state, central government has promised them to pay compensation amount for a period of 5 years from the rate of implementation of GST, for a period of 5 years from the rate of implementation of GST, and such extended time if required, but 5 years guaranteed from the rate of implementation of GST. So what is that GST compensation means? That so whenever their revenue, previous revenue under old indirect taxes comes down, so to that extent balance, so will be compensated by the government. And which government? Central government will be compensating to the state government. But for that, central government need money. So what they are doing? So they are collecting it from the people called as GST compensation cess. Say to pay to the state, they collect from across the country, not from that state alone. They will collect from across the country as compensation cess on some notified goods. What are those notified goods and what is the rate of compensation cess? Not required for you. But there are some notified goods. On those notified goods, they will be collecting something called as compensation cess. They get some compensation amount. That compensation amount they will be giving to the states. Okay, so that is this GST compensation cess. See this note already I told you. IGST is levied by central government and 50% out of this is transferred to state based on place of supply. If place of supply cannot be ascertained, it shall be paid to the consuming state. See, generally that's what I told you. In my example, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. Karnataka is the place of supply. So 50% will go to Karnataka. So suppose if the place of supply cannot be ascertained, there are certain cases where place of supply cannot be ascertained. So in that case, we need to deem it as interstate supply. So in that case, where it will go? Consuming state it will go. Very simple. Okay. Then next, this already I told with you. Intrastate versus interstate. Intra is both supplier and place of supply in the same state. This is given in section 8. Section 7 deals with interstate supply. Remember, first is inter, section 7, then is intra, section 8. These two sections are of which act? IGST Act. Suppose if I am referring to any section in this particular videos, so in this particular classes, so I mean to say that it is CGST Act. Any section if I am referring, CGST Act. If it is IGST Act, I will stress upon, because for your exam, you have CGST Act and IGST Act sections, but IGST Act not all, like we don't have that many sections in IGST Act. In CGST Act only a lot of sections are there that will be applicable for your exam. IGST few sections are applicable for your exam. And what about UTGST Act and SGST Act? That is not applicable for your exam, but you don't have to worry. Whatever is the law that is there in CGST Act, the same thing will be applicable for SGST Act and UTGST Act. Okay, then GST compensation is just the concept that is applicable for your exam. Next, So therefore, this section 7 and 8 is the meaning of interstate supply and intrastate supply as per section 7 of IGST Act, 8 of IGST Act. Then look into export of goods versus export of services. You need to know something about this, because in our discussion in the later part, so definitely we will be coming across this. Mainly there is a chapter called as place of supply, there it will be applicable. So what is this export of goods and export of services? See, as per GST, first of all, export of goods is not covered under GST because, and I mean to say, not leviable to tax under GST, it is leviable to customs duty. Import of goods and export of goods is leviable to customs duty. Okay, but as I told you already that customs duty, whenever it comes into the picture, there are some additional customs duties called as CVD and SAD that got subsumed into GST. So GST Act has got some link between export of goods and export of services. So what is export of goods? Simply it is taking goods from India to a place outside India is known as export of goods. Taking goods from India to a place outside India is known as export of goods, nothing else. So should the consideration be relevant in order to call it as export of goods? No. Consideration in forex is not a condition to treat it as export of goods for the purpose of GST, to treat it as export of goods. But to get refund of IGST, there is something called as refund. At the time when you export, you will be eligible for refund of some unutilized ITC or refund of IGST paid on export. To get the refund, you should have realized the foreign exchange proceeds. Okay, so suppose if you have claimed the refund and if you have not realized the export proceeds within the time stipulated, then whatever refund that is granted to you will be recovered. So therefore, only for the purpose of that refund, so foreign exchange proceeds are required. But to treat it as export of goods, nowhere it is given that foreign exchange remittances is a condition. Then in case of export of services, if you see, what is the meaning of export of service? Use your common sense. Where the supplier could be in India, where the recipient could be outside India, and how the consideration will be in convertible foreign exchange. But in case of services to Nepal and Bhutan, the consideration can be in Indian rupees. So there is a relaxation that is given by RBI that consideration can be in Indian rupees in case of services to Nepal and Bhutan. Okay. Then, so what are the three conditions so far that we have discussed? Location of supplier where? In India. Location of recipient where? Outside India. And consideration should be in convertible foreign exchange. In case of Nepal and Bhutan, it can be in Indian rupees. Not that it should be in Indian rupees. It can be in Indian rupees. Means it can be in Indian rupees or in foreign exchange. And the place of supply. Place of supply depends upon the transaction. So for different transactions, we have different place of supply. Sometimes it is location of recipient. Sometimes it is location where service are actually performed. Sometimes it is location of immovable property. Sometimes it is starting point of the passenger, ending point of the goods, or starting point of the goods. So then we have something called as location where the event is held, whatnot. There are a lot of place of supply. So depending upon the transaction, we need to know what is the place of supply. So that place of supply should be where, for becoming export of service, the place of supply should be outside India. The place of supply should be outside India. And then supplier and recipient are not two establishments of the same person. So what does it mean? Supplier and recipient are not two establishments of the same person. So for example, here you should not understand it as holding company, subsidiary company. Holding and subsidiary company are always treated as separate persons only. So there can be export of service between them. But two establishments of the same person means one division in India, one other division outside India, or head office in India, branch office outside India, or branch office in India, head office outside India, like that. So two establishments of the same person. Person should be one person, and that person has two establishments, one in India, other outside India. Between them, it will never be called as export of services. So that is the meaning of export of goods and export of services. So as a definition, you should be knowing. That's why I discussed it here. Then deemed interstate supplies. The following supplies shall be deemed to be interstate supplies here. Okay. So what are the deemed interstate supplies? Means irrespective of the location of supplier and place of supply, it will be deemed to be interstate supplies. Sir, export between holding and subsidiary or export of services? Yes. Export between holding company and subsidiary company will be treated as export of services because holding company and subsidiary company are two different persons due to that reason. Okay. Two different persons. They are not same person to establishment, two different persons, because holding company will have a separate incorporation, subsidiary company will have a separate incorporation, two different persons they are. Then deemed interstate supplies. The following supplies are deemed to be interstate supplies irrespective of the location of supplier and the place of supply. So what is this deemed interstate supply means? See, certain supplies were treated as deemed interstate and IGST will be applicable in case of those supplies. What are they? Number one, supply to SEZ or by SEZ. Special economic zone is also in the same state where the supplier is located, but it will be treated as interstate supply. Okay. And same way SEZ is making supply to the person in that DTA. DTA refers to domestic tariff area. SEZ is a notified region called as special economic zone. So now there is a person in special economic zone who is making supply to a person in DTA. Both are in the same state, but then also it will be treated as interstate supply. Same way, a person in DTA is making supply to a person in SEZ, that is also treated as deemed interstate supply, and therefore in that case IGST is applicable. And thereafter we have import of goods and import of services. Import of goods, sir, why import of goods? We need to understand under GST, because I told you whenever there is customs duty, additional customs duty got subsumed, in the place of additional customs duty there is IGST. So on import of goods, apart from basic customs duty, we also pay IGST. So therefore import of goods and import of services will be deemed to be interstate. So first point, supply to SEZ by SEZ, import of goods and import of services. Then export of goods or services. Export of goods or services will also be treated as deemed interstate. So, but it is not exactly given like that. It is given like location of supplier in India and place of supply outside India. Naturally, that is export only now, because you try to understand, sir, where is it given, sir, in case of export of goods that the place of supply is outside India. So it is outside India because that is given in section 11 of IGST Act. It is given in section 11 of IGST Act. Place of supply under section 11 of IGST Act. Place of supply under section 11 of IGST Act is location outside India. Location outside India. Location outside India will be taken as the place of supply under section 11. So means where the supplier is located in India, and what is the place of supply, location of supplier in India, place of supply is outside India. So therefore that will be treated as export of goods. Export of goods, place of supply is where outside India. So therefore it will be coming under deemed interstate supply. Same way export of services, no doubt supplier in India, place of supply outside India. So therefore what is it we can say? Export of goods and services, both are treated as interstate supply, even though not directly given that way, but this is the word given in the law. Location of supplier in India, place of supply outside India. Then supply of goods to a tourist. So there is a tourist, that person who is coming to India for legitimate non-immigrant purposes. So he is coming to India not to stay in India, but for the purpose of a tourism, and his stay will not be more than 6 months. The logic is simple. That is, in case of income tax, 182 days. So to become a resident, 182 days or more. So therefore, that 182 days is just converted here into 6 months. So therefore, if the person is staying for a period less than or equal to 6 months, and he is coming to India on a legitimate non-immigrant purpose, not to settle here, he will be called as a tourist. So to such tourist, so whenever we make supply, that should be treated as interstate supply, because the tourist can get the refund. But right now, tourist refund scheme is not present. Right now, it is not applicable here. So right now, if you ask me, this particular point does not make sense, because tourist refund scheme is not effective. Tourist refund scheme is not effective due to that reason. Tourist refund scheme is not effective due to that reason. Supply of goods to a tourist, will not be coming under, any reason, because even we can classify it as intrastate supply also, because it is not effective. The tourist refund scheme is not effective. What has happened? So whenever you are making supply to a tourist, that tourist will be producing those invoices in the international airport, and he will be getting the IGST paid as refund. So in that case only we should treat as interstate supplies. Okay, fine. But for legal purposes, yes, it is. For exam purposes, supply of goods to a tourist is deemed interstate supply. Then supply of goods or services beyond territorial waters. See, up to territorial waters, when you make supply, what is territorial waters? Up to 12 nautical miles from the baseline is known as territorial waters. When you make supply inside the territorial waters, so those supply will be, treated as either intrastate or interstate, depending upon the nearest coastal state. Okay. For example, say the supplier is in Tamil Nadu and there is a ship belonging to a foreign person outside India. That ship is somewhere in the territorial waters. So the supplier in Tamil Nadu is a marine engineer, consulting engineer. He goes to that ship and he do the repair services, and now whatever money that he receives, the place of supply is in the territorial waters. But for understanding whether it is intrastate or interstate, we need to see the nearest coastal state. So the ship is in territorial waters. So what is the nearest coastal state? It is Tamil Nadu or is it Andhra? So if it is Tamil Nadu, then it will be intrastate supply for him. If it is Andhra Pradesh, that is the ship is nearest to which coastal state? If the ship is nearest to Andhra Pradesh, then it will be treated as interstate supply. Like that, we need to classify when if the supply is in territorial waters. If the supply is beyond territorial waters up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline, so then it is an exclusive economic zone which will be called as supply in India, because for the purpose of GST, India includes exclusive economic zone up to 200 nautical miles from baseline. See, this exclusive economic zone means 200 nautical miles from baseline here. 200 nautical miles from baseline. 200 nautical miles from baseline is known as exclusive economic zone, 200 nautical miles. So therefore, in that case, up to 200 nautical miles from baseline will be covered under India, boss. Will be covered under India. Up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline will be covered under India. Is it clear or not? Then we have something called as zero rated supplies. So what is that? What are the 5 deemed interstate supplies? So the 5 deemed interstate supplies: supply to SEZ, by SEZ, import of goods, import of services, export of goods, export of services, and then supply of goods to a tourist, and supply beyond the territorial waters and up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline. That is supplies in territorial water, supply in India, not elsewhere covered, because beyond 200 nautical miles up to baseline, from baseline, beyond 12 nautical miles and up to 200 nautical miles will be coming under India. Beyond that is not India. So supply in the taxable territory, not elsewhere covered, will come under deemed interstate supply. Then we have something called as zero rated supplies under GST. What are zero rated supplies under GST? Export of goods and services or supply of goods and services to SEZ. These two are treated as zero rated supplies. So what's special about zero rated supplies? In case of zero rated supplies, there are 2 options, boss. Option number 1, you pay IGST on outward supply, and by utilizing the ITC, and you get refund of the gross IGST paid. Or option 2, you export or make supply without payment of any IGST and get refund of unutilized ITC. So therefore, these are the 2 options that is available in case of zero rated supply. There are 2 refunds in case of zero rated supply. So refund number 1 is that first I am making sales. So when I am making sales, on that sale, that is exports I am making or supply to SEZ I am making. So on that I have to pay IGST, and after paying IGST, I'll get how I will pay that IGST. Using my credit balance, I will pay that IGST and I'll get refund of that IGST. Gross I will get or net I will get? Gross I will get. For example, 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs into 12%, 1,20,000. I'll pay 1,20,000 and I will be having some credit of 50,000. So 50,000 I will adjust and balance 70,000 I will pay by cash ledger. Now how much refund I will be getting under option 1? So is it 70,000 or 1,20,000? Entire 1,20,000 we will get as refund under option number 1. Okay. Whereas option number 2 is what? So export or supply to SEZ without payment of IGST. So don't pay any IGST and get refund of unutilized ITC. Same example. So 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs into 12%, 1,20,000. I don't have to pay. I don't have to pay. And 50,000 rupees credit is there, unutilized ITC pertaining to this. But how to calculate that refund and all we will be seeing in refunds. Okay. So that refund we will be getting, and therefore option 1 and option 2. So when option 1 is better, when option 2 is better, why there are option 1, option 2, all these points we will be learning in refunds chapter. So I'm just giving you the a brief overview about, so in case of refunds what we'll be having. So therefore, first of all, a zero rated supply means export of goods or services and supply to SEZ is known as zero rated supply. In case of zero rated supply, I have 2 options. Either I will pay GST and get it as refund, or I will not pay GST and get refund of unutilized ITC. So in both the options, the tax incidence will be 0. That's why it is known as zero rated supply. Okay. Why is it called as zero rated? It is called as zero rated because the tax incidence is there, na? The tax incidence. The tax incidence is going to be zero. Due to that reason only it is called as zero rated supply. Now can we take, actually I am not paying any GST to the government. Whatever I pay also I will get as a refund. Can I take input tax credit on my invert supplies? Yes. That is the advantage in zero rated supplies. That is, ITC can be availed. ITC, GST paid on invert supply can be availed as ITC, because zero rated supplies will be treated as taxable for the purpose of availment of ITC, so we can take the credit. Then next we have supplies in territorial waters. So this already I told you, supplies in territorial waters, section 9 of IGST Act. That is, we need to take the nearest coastal state. Along with the example I have already given to you. Then this is the May 21 amendment which I was discussing. That is, the state of J&K is divided into two union territories. Union territory of Ladakh and union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Union territory of Ladakh is union territory without state legislature, whereas Jammu and Kashmir is union territory with state legislature, where SGST Act is applicable. Union territory of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and union territory of Daman and Diu. These were two union territories previously that got merged into a single union territory. Okay, so therefore now these two will be treated as a one union territory only. Daman, Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli will be treated as one union territory. These are the May 21 amendments that is applicable for your exam. Okay, these are the May 21 amendments, two amendments applicable for your exam. So based on these amendments, they can create some questions. Say this. So we are taking like how questions could be asked related to this: location of supplier, place of supply, then nature of supply, and what is the GST that is applicable. So first, location of supplier, union territory of J&K. Location of supplier is union territory of J&K. And place of supply is also union territory of J&K. So now what it is, nature of supply will be intrastate supply. So when it is intrastate supply, what will be the tax that is applicable in this case? What will be the tax that is applicable in this case? CGST plus UTGST or SGST. So we will get a confusion whether it is UTGST or SGST. It is SGST only, not UTGST. Why it is SGST? So reason is simple, that we need to treat it like a state. Okay, so you can participate in the discussion. So location of supplier is union territory of Ladakh. Union territory of Ladakh. Place of supply is also union territory of Ladakh. And what will be the nature of supply? The nature of supply is again intrastate. And what will be the tax that is applicable in this case? What is the GST that is applicable in this case? CGST and UTGST. Very good. UTGST is applicable in this case. Then number 3. So location of supplier is union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Place of supply is union territory of Ladakh. And what will be the nature of supply? Interstate supply. And in this case, what is the tax that is applicable? IGST is applicable. Very good. And out of this IGST, 50% will go to consuming state. Correct or not? But that is not applicable here. Why not applicable here? 100% by central government, 100% retained by CG. Why 100% is retained by CG? Because the place of supply is where? Union territory of Ladakh. Union territory of Ladakh will come under? Union territory of Ladakh will come under where? Union territory of Ladakh will come under central government only. So because it is without state legislature. So therefore IGST 100% retained by central government. Then number 4, union territory of Ladakh and union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Union territory of Ladakh and union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. What is the nature of supply? Is it intrastate supply or interstate supply? Sir, of course it is interstate supply. And what is the type of GST that is applicable? IGST. Now in this case, whether this IGST will be retained by central government or 50% shared with the state government, definitely it will be shared, because union territory of Jammu and Kashmir is what? Union territory without state legislature or state legislature. Which state legislature? Means treat like a state. So IGST and 50% shared with 50% shared with Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. 50% shared with Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. In this case, it will be applicable. Why in the previous case it was not applicable? Because in the previous case, the consuming state is not a state. It was a Union Territory without state legislature, means it was under the control of central government only. So no 50% share and all. And next, number 5, Union Territory of Daman and Diu, then Union Territory of Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Nagar Haveli. Previously it was interstate. One union territory to another union territory. But now it is, previously it was interstate. But now it is intrastate. So now in this case, what will happen? So CGST plus SGST or UTGST? UTGST, because Dadra, Nagar Haveli, Daman, Diu are union territories without state legislature. So UTGST will be applicable. So these are the 5 points based on the amendments. Based on the amendments, if at all you can be tested in this area. So these points can be tested in exam. Okay. So these points can be tested in exam in relation to this. With this, we completed the first area, that's it 1, introduction to GST. Okay.